Hello, welcome to the first career panel. My name is Nikki Stout. I'm a FIRST alumni and I will be the moderator for today's chat. As many of you know, companies and organizations across the globe seek FIRST students and alumni because you're part of a community that prepares young people for the future. While we do focus on robotics, FIRST provides transferable skills and technical skills to prepare you for your career path and for whichever one you may choose. FIRST isn't something you do, it is something you are. And you can learn more about being a FIRST alumni by going to firstinspires.org/alumni. I'm sure you're all here because you're wondering how to leverage your FIRST experience in the workforce. Whether you're looking for your first job or you have years of experience under your belt, we can all benefit from ensuring our resumes are best in show. Today, we all will hear from a few STEM companies as we discuss the recruiting priorities, and we will explore the best ways to make your FIRST experience work for your career. So I'd like you all to meet our panelists. First, we have Samantha Rupert, the program manager from BAE Systems. She has a bachelor's in science and industrial engineering from Northeastern University, a master's in science and engineering management from Duke University, and she has work experience with Raytheon, Johnson & Johnson in the Neutrogena brand, BAE Systems, of course. And while she's at BAE, she's completed the Operation Leadership Development Program, taken on several roles, including process engineer for circuit card assembly, factory supervisor, product stream manager, and industrial engineer for new product introduction, all in the current role of program manager. For FIRST, she frequently volunteers, and she is the affiliate partner for FIRST LEGO League Challenge program in the state of New Hampshire. For FIRST Tech Challenge, she volunteers at events. And for FIRST Robotics Competition, she's on the planning committee for 2 to 3 events each year, typically as the hospitality coordinator and VIP coordinator. From BOSCH, we have Susan Tippy, the Powertrain Solutions Quality Manager, and she's passionate about experiential hands-on learning. Her 30+ years in automotive industry, my apologies, have given her plenty of opportunities to learn and grow. One unique chance she was as a high school co-op for General Motors. Alongside engineers designing and tooling, she was inspired to study mechanical engineering and took on a full-time position with General Motors after college. As a fun fact, she designed the wiper system on the C5 Corvette, and her drive for continued learning at Robert Bosch LLC, especially with 3 years international assignment in Germany. She learned to appreciate other cultures and the global nature of our world, and she continues to collaborate with global team members on a daily basis in leadership, customer satisfaction, and problem-solving projects. Today, Susan is the North American Steering Committee chairperson for Bosch's FIRST partnership, and she eagerly shares her enthusiasm for STEM programs like FIRST with students and adults alike. And of course, from Rockwell Automation, we have Jay Flores, the Global STEM Ambassador. The power of STEM, Jay advocates, can help young girls and boys become superheroes, solve big and little problems that and contribute their best ideas to improve our planet. As a global STEM ambassador, Jay knows just how important STEM is to the future of the world. He's spreading the world is energizing presentations and outreach to schools, community groups, and industry experts. As a keynote speaker, Jay is masterful in connecting STEM to everyday life and motivating students to become tomorrow's innovators. So let's dive into our panel discussion. Our first question is, what is some advice you all have for FIRST alumni looking to break into the corporate world?
So for me, it's about using your time on the FIRST teams to try to understand what you like to do and what you don't like to do. And that really helps guide your career decisions and also what you would want to go and study in once you graduate from high school. And honestly, in today's world, not every job needs a college education. I mean, I do believe that all industries need some level of technical skills as well, for technical training after high school. But at Bosch, we also are looking for apprentice programs. And in fact, we're just now launching an apprentice program for software engineers.
Yeah, so I would echo that as well. But I think one of the biggest takeaways you get from a lot of the FIRST programs is the ability to figure out what you do and don't like, but then also the ability to talk to people in all different types of careers. A lot of the mentors or people that you'll work with throughout your time in first teams will have various experiences, and I think taking an opportunity to get to talk to those people, hear what they do or don't like, maybe even get the chance to tour or see some of their companies, puts you in a really good position when you're moving into education or your future careers to know, okay, this is something I like or this is something I want to explore. And the other piece of advice I would give too is take advantage of those connections to help you get into some internships when you are in school or when you're first coming out of school. I know within BAE, we obviously have a ton of college internships, but one of the big things we've been promoting lately is looking at first alumni and seeing if we can bring them in high school, because there's a lot of skill sets that they bring to the table, and it's a really good learning experience for both them and us. And honestly, there's a lot of really good ideas we get just from having a different perspective and having different people of different backgrounds and age groups come into the workforce, even just for a summer, to bring something new to the table.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about FIRST is how the theme and season changes every year, and you're solving different types of problems. From the time maybe you start out in LEGO League, you're trying to look out into your community and solve a wide variety of issues, everything from working with animals during animal ally season to space to this year's sports. So use that as an opportunity to explore and find the areas that you're most excited about. Understand that STEM is literally everywhere, and being an engineer is just solving problems, and you get to decide what kind of problems you want to solve. And why not go after the ones that you're most passionate about? If you can find that connection and find a company that does that type of work, then you're going to have an awesome, rewarding career, and everything that you love about FIRST, you'll be able to take on with you into the rest of your life. I think you're on mute,
That is wonderful advice. Now, for those in the audience, am I muted?
You're good now. It was
You're good, yes.
Or am I good?
You're good.
Okay.
Nope.
For those who are in the audience, you can ask the panelists questions. So ask your questions. We will get them in as quickly as possible. We'll answer them as soon as possible. And while we wait for some audience questions, can all of the panelists tell us a little bit about yourself outside of what we've heard in your bio?
I can go ahead. One thing, during these crazy times, I miss being out there at events with all the students and seeing robots and teams and being out there in the crowds with you all. So I've really just tried to adapt and find new ways to continue to inspire during these times, find ways to reach even more students. So I started a series on TikTok called It's Not Magic, It's Science, and it's just been a fun way to do fun, quick at-home science experiments that kids can do with their families. And it's just been a way to reach probably even more students than I could reach during a first season. So I'm excited to continue to expand that and hopefully get back to normal events soon. So just that advice for you guys as you're finding new ways to try to have what you love about FIRST, even if the season doesn't pan out the same way as it would have before. Just get creative, start filming yourself, find different avenues where you can reach and impact in the same way you may have via FIRST, even if it doesn't feel the same way. And so just explore, be creative, and don't worry about what it'll look like, because it might turn out being pretty awesome.
And I can follow up. So a little bit about me that's not work related or volunteering with FIRST. So besides all of that, we've been doing a lot of trying to be active at home or different things that we can do outside, just because it seems like, especially if you're in an at-home situation, it feels like you're cooped up all day. Maybe you're sitting a lot more, that you realize you don't get the opportunity to stretch and be active. And one of the things that we found is that we're actually more productive when we take a little bit of time during the day just to take some downtime or take a break. So we've been looking at different ways to do that as well. And then another fun fact about us is we're very big animal lovers. We have cats at home. For those that follow any of Instagram or the first LEGO League Instagram that we have, cats may or may not have made a few appearances. I'm limited to the amount of posts, but another fun fact about me as well.
It's a fun fact about me is I'm also an animal lover, and my dog is really thinking that he is now my supervisor, and he doesn't leave the room typically, just to make sure that I'm working really hard while I'm working from home.
Yeah, it took some.
My cat seems to think that my computer is a space heater that she could sleep on all day. We have fights about it frequently.
I have the same issue with my little itty bitty kitten. So it appears we have some questions from chat. Our first question is, how does someone apply to an internship with your companies?
I guess I
And
can take that.
Yeah.
So we post on our website, boschcareers.com, all of the different job opportunities. And then the portal is split up into areas for students or for professionals. And so you can go online there, you sign up with a profile, and then you can go on and look for the different jobs. One thing I would encourage you is to also leverage your mentors. You know, if you build these relationships with your mentors, and then they can also help open doors for you because they can speak on your behalf within their company.
hey, Jay, how does someone apply to an internship at Rockwell Automation?
Yep, so similar, we've got a careers site that also has an early careers area where you can look at college internships. We're also on the first alumni and internship portal. You'll be able to find links to our opportunities there usually, so definitely check that page out. We've got a profile on Tallo. For those of you who are familiar with Tallo, we now are up on there and we'll be looking to communicate with students in the future. Definitely have to echo the mentor statement. No matter what company you're interested in, if there's a mentor out there, definitely connect with them. We definitely encourage our mentors to talk to the students about the internship opportunities. So that's usually one of the best ways to get some kind of recommendation in. And we also have some high school opportunities as well. So don't feel like it's too early or too late in either direction, both on the high school side and also I know we've hired some mentors or volunteers from First Events. So just definitely make sure you have it on your resume when you're looking out there and connecting with us. And just connect with those people that are either mentors or Rockwell employees at some of these events, because it's one of the best ways to, one, learn about what opportunities are available and to kind of get your foot in the door.
Samantha,
Yeah.
how about BAE Systems?
So shockingly, we also have a careers website. It's jobs.baesystems.com. One of the things I tell people when they're looking for internships is actually put in internship as a key word, because since we're such a big company, we have sites all across the US. So what a lot of the sites will do, especially within some of our different sectors, like for electronic systems, for example, which is where I work, we might have one giant rec that we use to gather all of the resumes. And then what we'll do is we'll talk with the different hiring managers and say, hey, we have these many kids that have this background. What do you need? What skill sets? And then it kind of helps filter just so that there's not a million internship recs and it's overwhelming for candidates when they go on. Another thing that we've done, and some people may be familiar with it, is so we've started a new, it's a first internship program. It's targeted specifically at first alumni. So there's information about that on our website as well. And what we'll do is we'll bring on, it's a scholarship and internship program. So there's some scholarship funding that we'll provide for school as well as an internship as well that goes along with it. And so every year we select a handful of students with the goal being to try to help bring some of that first alumni in. We have a lot of first alumni people within our workforce, some of which we're not even fully aware of until we happen to see them in an event and learn from it. So we definitely value the program and put a lot of money into it. And then the last thing I'll add too is we're working with our hiring managers a lot, specifically our talent acquisition teams, to teach them a little bit more about the value of having first on a resume. So that's a big thing we're pushing for right now, because I know to everybody here it seems like obvious, like why wouldn't you want to hire a first student? But there's a lot of hiring managers that maybe haven't been exposed to it. So one of our initiatives we're trying to do at a higher level is make sure people are more aware of the value that a lot of those students bring.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that and add that a couple of things. One, make sure that you have your first experience on your resume. It's extremely valuable. I'd even compare it to, real life work experience. I think you guys have accomplished more than I did in my senior design project in mechanical engineering during your season. So I definitely have that on there to make sure that you're not using all the acronyms and the first speak that we all are aware of, but that someone who might not be regularly at a first event is aware of. For example, I saw a resume that had Dean's List award on it. And to someone who's not in first, they're just think, okay, that person was on the Dean's List from their school because they had a certain GPA, not realizing how prestigious that award could be. Or if your team's a chairman's award, someone who's not connected to first isn't going to know how valuable that is and how much work goes into doing something like that. So definitely make sure that you have it on there and that you can highlight what exactly some of those accomplishments mean. And then when you're talking about your specific roles on your teams, also be very specific on your accomplishments as well, because not everyone's going to be aware of what each of those roles means and how do I say it, how intense it is to be, for example, an FRC student in a 6-week build competition, right? So really highlight those little things that can amplify what your accomplishments are.
I'd like to echo off of Jay's point as well about the accomplishments. One thing that's really important is for students to articulate what their personal accomplishments were. And that's really hard because as a team, it's always we, it's us doing it together, and no one person is necessarily always responsible for one thing because you succeed together. But make sure you can figure out how to articulate things that you did contribute, if it's a leadership role or some new design idea or an innovative way of wiring or producing something. And that really helps the company get a sense more for your accomplishments versus the accomplishments of your whole team.
So our next question, and this one goes a little bit into the pandemic. In light of the pandemic, how are your internships going to change? Sam, can you start us off?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So one of the things that within the company that we're looking at, so first, there's a lot of key roles that we're identifying because we've been getting a lot of questions in general, like, are you still hiring? Like, have you had to reduce like any of the workforce? And it's a very fair question. So one of the things we're focusing on is, yes, we're still hiring. There's certain key positions that we need to fill. There are different sectors like of our group between commercial and defense. There's different needs there. So just depending on what you're looking at, it'd be good to identify what area you're applying to. And then the other thing we're looking at as a company is I would expect if the position could potentially be done from home or worked remotely, that's something that we'd be moving towards. We're looking, nothing official has come out because it's a little bit of a tough situation as one can imagine, but I would expect that if it's a position that can be done remotely, that I would expect there to be a little bit of cross training or for it to be asked of you to be able to work remotely. So if it's something that you're not comfortable with, or it's something where you feel like you need to have a face-to-face, like make sure you're very, very specific when you're looking at the roles to ask about it. There are still some essential roles that are in the office as well, but I mean, moving forward, that's kind of the route we're going. Especially us being a technology company too, trying to get as much as we can to be done safely for all of our employees, and remotely is something we're moving towards.
Yeah, I think that the remote work is going to be a key issue, especially for first-time interns when you haven't worked with a company before, or you're trying to figure out what the culture is like, who is on your team, and how do you get help with certain scenarios. It's going to be very challenging, and just being aware of that from the beginning, having that kind of conversation with managers about how and where you can go for help is very important during these times, so you don't feel like you're already separate from the team. You don't want to feel even further away because you can't navigate that. But then even just looking at yourself internally and understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are when it relates to remote work. You might have to adjust how your schedule works every day just to make sure that you can focus when you need to. You might have to change your office environment that you have within your home or apartment and figure out how you're going to be able to do your best work. And then also even just like how you approach meetings and how you get comfortable with the different types of meeting softwares, all that kind of work is going to be additional things that interns will have to look at that you may not have had to otherwise. But take this time now to get used to that, have team meetings with your current team, with your first team, and find ways to get more comfortable doing that in this fun, safe environment at first, so that you can have even more success when you start doing it for a company.
Yeah, and don't be afraid and practice. I will say, to echo, like being able to reach out and ask for help. One of the key things I think is going to be very important, especially with internships, is you're going to be coming in, I'm not saying blind, but not knowing a lot of people. So make sure that you feel comfortable being able to reach out, like Jay was saying, and knowing your points of contact. It's something to be aware of now before you're looking at a lot of those roles.
Susan, how is BOSCH changing internships, or are they not changing internships during the pandemic?
Right now, our internships are kind of on hold at this point. And it's more for the safety of the associates. So a lot of the internship positions that we have are typically on site and in the lab, where you can get a lot of hands-on experience. And so right now there might be some that are still going on, but I know the ones in my local area, we've kind of put a bit of a pause for this last summer on them. And as we go forward, as things start to become more clear, then I'm sure we will come back. So, because BOSCH has a lot of internship programs, we're still keeping our rotational programs going for associates that have already completed a high school or a college diploma, and then they're still working in their 6-month rotations.
So our next question is, as a freshly graduated mechanical engineer, it feels like most of my high school first experience has been outdated by more recent work. I'm a better engineer now, and my high school accomplishments aren't as impressive or representative, of my abilities. Is it still worth highlighting my first experience in either technical or non-technical areas? Jay, do you want to take this one first?
Sure. Yeah. So as you grow within your career, you're gonna eventually move around things on your resume. I would never completely take first off, because I think it's such a powerful brand and amazing community, and hopefully you've had some opportunities to mentor or volunteer. When we're looking at students, the only thing better than a first alum is a first alum that's still mentoring and volunteering, because then you're showing that you can then take on that leadership role and lead with influence. A bunch of other students that aren't directly reporting to you or you're not paying. That's an incredible experience as a leader, especially with tough timelines and tough budgets. So it's something that might get shifted around, might have less space on your resume, but is something that I think will forever be valuable. And then it just depends, because then you can still draw back to it in an interview, for example. So maybe it doesn't have as much space on your resume, but you have some really good examples of how you handled a tough situation on a first team that you can still draw back to and bring out during your interview process. So just make sure, again, that you don't completely forget about those good opportunities, and just figure out where they're best positioned on your resume and in interviews, and which one of your new opportunities may be better suited for those things. And congrats on getting your mechanical engineering degree.
I guess from my perspective, I think that highlighting some of your first accomplishments also helps to show the breadth of your experience. So especially when you're very, just starting out, and then you've got a good experience with your mechanical engineering curriculum and the projects that you've worked on, but conflict management, some of these softer skills, like Jay says, it gives you the chance to draw on those as experiences. And if you put them in your resume, then you can also use them as stories and experiences that shows you as a more well-rounded person, rather than just a mechanical engineer. Not that there's anything wrong with mechanical engineering.
We're pretty awesome.
Yes, we are.
And it's a good not only talking point, but one of the things I've been in interviews where like someone puts like a bullet of something like random, like just to like as a hobby or like a way to, because on paper, especially if it's all very technical things, and then you have one or two small things that maybe show a little bit of your personality, it can make a big difference when someone's reviewing the resume. I've actually sat next to an interviewer who circled like the most random thing, and they're like, I did that too. I'm asking them about that. Like, I know we have to ask the other questions, but we're going to talk about this during the interview. And it's good because then you just make that personal connection with, maybe if it's a panel, one person on the panel or the hiring manager. And honestly, sometimes that connection and your ability to talk about your experience and have something to relate about can be the difference between somebody with equal qualifications and you getting the role, because you've shown them enough of their personality where they're like, oh, this person would be fantastic on my team. I can see them interacting well with this person and this person, so I want to bring them in. So I wouldn't take it off. I might just make it like something you highlight on the bottom, because you'd be surprised. And I'll speak specifically like for BAE, we have like first on a lot of our web pages, and like we do a lot of events. So you'd be surprised how many people might just bring it up or ask you about it. So it could be a very good talking point and a good way to make a connection and make you feel more comfortable during the interview as well.
Yeah, like a good icebreaker, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't feel like, you're kind of nervous when you go in. It helps.
Yeah. And anything that can help you kind of stay in the mind of that recruiter is huge, because especially if you're at a large event or a role that has a lot of people applying for, if it could be anything. I've heard stories similar to what you were mentioning of someone that had a scuba certification, and that recruiter was also scuba certified, and it just, again, you still need those other certifications, right? You still need the other qualifications for the role, but if that can help you stay in the mind of that person, and you draw that stronger connection, it can help a lot.
So our next question is a little more general. What is your favorite part about your companies? Susan, do you want to start?
Sure. So for me, my favorite part about our company is our company values. So we value diversity and inclusion and being yourself. And in such a large global company, we have lots of opportunities to meet people from very diverse backgrounds. But we encourage our associates to explore and do the things that they like to do, and then also to contribute to causes that they're interested in. So, for example, sponsoring first teams. We sponsor the mentorship on the different first teams. We facilitate our people supporting these different teams.
Jay, how about?
Yeah, I can go. So similar, I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons I chose Rockwell was the mentoring culture and the culture of inclusion that the company has. It just felt like a place where, compared to some of the other companies that I was interviewing with, it felt like a place that actually cared about my growth and development within the company, and not how I could just fill this one role. And so that was very important to me. But to give a different answer, I love that we're literally in like every industry. So I started out in technical sales, and my job was basically like to show how it's made. Every single day I was in a different type of industry, trying to figure out what they're trying to accomplish and how our products can help them do that more efficiently, safer, cheaper, etc. And so I had customers from Kraft when we were making Chips Ahoy cookies to, later in the day I would go to a cement plant and we'd be making giant concrete bricks. It was really cool to just see where STEM is everywhere. And then that's kind of now shaped my role now, where I'm trying to inspire more students to get into engineering and science. And I have all these really cool examples, from roller coasters to cars to getting into space, that are all these different industries that we touch with our products, that now I can use to inspire a wide variety of students, because every student is going to have a different reason why they get excited about engineering.
Yeah, so for me, so I think one of the big things that drew me to BAE is, so if you look at our mission statement, it's we protect those who protect us, and then we innovate for those who move the world. So both of those are just very big mission statements, and you go in and you interview with them, and to me, my experience there is that everybody that works there is there because they want to help in some way, and they're there and they take their work very seriously. They understand the impact it can have out in the field and in the world and in the lives of a lot of people who are out protecting our country, which is awesome. And on a personal note, since I've been there, one of the things I really like about BAE, I find that their work-life balance culture tends to be great. Now, I will say there are weeks, yes, you're going to work a lot of hours. Maybe you're doing something really cool, really difficult. But in general, I found people are very respectful of understanding that people have family lives and outside lives, and they're very flexible with you and working. And all the culture is, it's not a blame culture, it's we're a team and we have this problem to solve, so let's come together as a group and figure out how to find a solution that solves this really hard problem. And the last thing I'll say is we do a lot of very, very cool things. So from an engineering standpoint, I've been in a lot of like very cool projects, and it's just really cool to work with like some of the smartest people I've ever met, solving these like really complex problems in an area that maybe wouldn't get exposed to. And because we are on so many types of platforms, we're it's similar to Rockwell or other big companies. We're all across the globe. We're on ships, we're on planes, we're on different armored vehicles. We make hybrid drive buses. So we do so many things that if you come into our company and you're like, I don't really like this isn't for me, you could easily find another job in another industry and have mentors and people that help you get there. And I think it's very hard to find a company that's so willing to say, you know what, let's work with you or find a way, because we would rather keep that talent selfishly internal and move them around.
So our next question from the audience is, how do I best explain first to companies what specifics should be highlighted and how do I do it? Samantha, do you want to start?
Yeah, so first can be hard for somebody that hasn't been to an event. So I normally start off with is I kind of give I call it the can spiel. It's a program that helps teach different skill sets within STEM from kindergarten all the way up through high school. So I start there and I say, you know, they're going to learn different skill sets. And then what I'll typically say is that most of the different components at the very little level are going to be composed of building some sort of robot or device that's going to run missions on a field. So they're going to learn the programming skills, the mechanical skills. And then on the side, they're typically doing another project that's going to teach them or bring them experience or knowledge from a field that maybe they haven't explored before. And then as they progress up, then they move into more of a real world, like six-week intensive course in being an engineer is what I've used before. It's like you have a tight budget, you're trying to build something to do some impossible mission, you're managing your own finances, you're also marketing your team because you have to go out and get fundraising. So you're doing all of this in a little mini company in a 6-week time frame. And at least within our company, we have a lot of like small little sprints we might do for projects like that. So I'll compare it in that manner. And it's a good way of saying, you know what, we form a mini company for 6 weeks, we solve a hard engineering problem, and we're like in, I don't like to call it a summer camp, but we're in an intense like boot camp of learning all these skill sets. And then the next year you take it and you iterate it again. So that's how I will describe it. And then normally I get a little bit too detailed because I'm very passionate about it and I have to slow down and stop talking.
I think that's a really good point, especially if you're in an interview situation. So we all love FIRST so much that we could talk about it for days, and there's 1,000, probably a million different things that we could point out about why it's great. So just trying to understand what part of your FIRST experience is really important to that recruiter or that particular role, I think can help a lot. So I'll give you an example of someone that I talked to that is not a FIRST experience, but she worked for Starbucks. And she didn't have any engineering experience, but she was applying for a sales role, a technical sales role. But she was able to apply the parts of her Starbucks job that were really connected to our role. And even though she didn't have the engineering experience, she did a really good job of explaining that. So she talked about how she was working with difficult, challenging customers in the morning when they didn't have their coffee and things weren't going right and they were in a rush, right? That's what it felt like for us sometimes when the customer was down and they needed something from us right away, and we needed to figure it out. And how do you manage that situation and take it to a good place? So same with your first experience. How do you take those pieces of what you learned and apply what makes the most sense into that interview conversation? So I'll give you a Rockwell hint for any of you that might want to interview with us in the future is if you were in first LEGO League, you were using ultrasonic sensors. We make ultrasonic sensors, industrial version, right? So if you tell me that when I was 10 years old, I was using an ultrasonic sensor to navigate this playing field with a robot, I didn't touch one until I was 20 something years old. So that's already putting you in a really good position for us. Or if you know that we help control the FRC field, you can talk about those kind of things. So just do your research on what the company is looking for and then pick out what different first experiences can connect best to what you're going after.
I would echo the same sentiments from both Samantha and Jay. Is especially it's really hard when you're so passionate about something to not overwhelm the interview. But I mean, pick out some key things that translate to the business that you're going to be applying for. So for example, I was mentoring on a team and they had an awards subgroup. And this awards subgroup was the one that wrote Chairman's Award and the business plan and some of those topics. And so these kids would put on, the students would put on their resume, I was the awards subgroup leader. Within our team, we rebranded that group to give it a name of communications, because I said communications is something that is a skill that directly translates to the business world. And if you come in and say, hey, I'm the communication subgroup lead, that makes, it makes more sense to the people that are looking at your resume or that are you're interviewing with. So you have to try to not get caught up in the lingo, in the jargon from first, but keep the most important essence that somebody that doesn't know anything about the program would understand.
Our next question comes from an adult in the room. How do I provide career exploration opportunities for my students? Jay, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start with this one. So I think one of the keys reasons why a lot of the companies here and other supporters of FIRST are so excited about it is because the students are receiving real life experience that translates directly to what we are trying to accomplish. And they're getting that practice and that experience. And so, but I don't think the students always realize that. They're just enjoying the experience. And so helping point out some of those real world examples of what they're doing and helping them understand that, hey, if you love what you're doing now, this is what we're doing in our industry. If you're a mentor that's from industry, we're doing similar things. It may be at a higher budget or a more complicated scale, but you are practicing exactly what we're looking for. Back to the ultrasonic sensor example. So what I encourage our mentors to do is say, hey, you're on a LEGO League team or an FRC team, and you see this either LEGO sensor or Rockwell sensor. Here's an example of how this same product is used in again, that plant I mentioned earlier, making cookies, right? This is how that sensor is used to make cookies in real life, and help them draw the real life connection to what they love about FIRST and what that next step can be, and encourage them to continue learning and exploring that path. Because one of the worst things that could happen is that you have all this experience, but you don't really know what the next step is or where to go to apply it and to continue what you love about FIRST. So the more that we can help bridge the gap, the more likely that they will be to continue pursuing a STEM degree and ending up at a pretty awesome place.
I guess one suggestion I would have, and I've seen this done on a couple of teams, is they've hosted their own little mini career panel. So they've reached out to their different mentors or even different parents to say, hey, would you come in, and speak with a group of students, for a couple hours, in a rotation as to what you do. And, I've seen them done as a panel. I've seen it done as a one-on-one with a small group. But it's really been very effective at sharing what you do with then students, and then they can ask, live questions and whatever's on their mind.
Yeah, I've seen something similar done where sometimes they'll do like design reviews before they're allowed to go out and buy like their materials, or they'll have certain hurdles that the mentor might put in place. And then what I've seen that's been really effective is they'll go out and they'll actually bring in like mechanical engineers or electrical engineers and have them do a little intro about who they are. And then they'll also say, like try to throw in some questions that might be to them seem like they're out of the blue, but might get asked in a real life situation, because internally we do these same types of design reviews before we can move forward and hit certain hurdles. So trying to make those relatable experiences is good. And then one other piece of advice I'll give, and I just know because BAE does it, I would reach out if you have any companies that sponsor you. A lot of them will do like career days. So like, for example, we have a few programs, but one of the programs I've helped with a lot that I find to be really effective is we have what's called Engineering Career Day, and we bring the students in. We show them a little bit about what we do, and then we try to walk them through some of the different types of engineering. A lot of local colleges will do similar things, or they'll run like summer programs. Some of it might be a little iffy with COVID and everything, but they are really good opportunities. And if you already have a connection with a company that's sponsoring you, if you could probably reach out to that point of contact, and if they don't know, they could maybe point you in the right direction, because they might already have things that they're running, or a tour or something that they'd be willing to do, just to help the students learn a little bit more.
So our next question is, aside from internships, which we've talked quite a bit about, do any of your companies have apprenticeship programs?
Yeah, I guess if I could lead with that one, BOSCH does have apprenticeship programs, and the apprenticeship program is very big in our Charleston, South Carolina plant, where we have an extensive technical trades program, and it's a program where we partner the students with one of the local technical junior colleges, and so they go to school during the day, and then for half of the day, and then they come and work at BOSCH for another half of a day. And by the time they finish the program, they're a certified apprentice, and then they also have usually like a 2-year degree. So we're doing that in Germany at the facilities that we have in Germany. The apprentice programs are also very, very common, although the whole education structure in Germany is a little different than it is here, where they've got different post-high school programs and different schools. But yeah, I would definitely encourage people to get into apprentice programs with the technical training.
We're exploring different opportunities for high school students, and that's kind of just building out what we have now. We have a couple of high school internships, and we're looking at apprenticeships and other different ways to get students in the door. But even if the company doesn't have a lot of opportunities for you in internships and apprenticeships, look out for different types of competitions. That's another thing we've done with a lot of high school and college students is hackathons. Last year we did a You Make It challenge. All different kinds of events to get you to continue to explore what you're doing, but then also potentially connect with the company. So be on the lookout for those type of things. Usually those are shared on social media. So follow the companies you're interested in, follow people from those companies, and you can find out what kind of cool things are going on.
Yeah, I don't know if we have like a formal apprenticeship program, but I think it was Susan who made this point earlier that you don't need to have necessarily the college degree to have the right skill sets that we need. So one of the things that we've been partnering with is a lot of local colleges that they might do a shorter course in a certain skill set that we need, like mechanical assembly or like microelectronic assembly, because to be honest, there's a lot of people that they don't think that it's a valuable skill to go and get, and they don't realize the big market that we might have. So for certain key roles, we're starting to partner, and we've had a few very successful programs, and we're reaching out to try to start more of certain areas where we know, hey, we need this skill set. Can we work with this college, or does this college or at like high school degree program of some sort have a way to get that skill set to people, and then we can bring them in. So I don't know if it's considered a formal apprenticeship program, but it's something that we've been working on as we've identified certain roles or skill sets that we need within our company.
So next question, tell us about your personal journey to the career you have now and how you built skills along the way that help you in your current role. Susan, can you start us off with that one again?
Sure. I had the unique opportunity as a high school student to work I was going to a vocational high school, and in our junior and senior years, we had a co-op program where every 2 weeks we were working or going to school. So I worked 40 hours a week for 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks I was in school full time, and that alternated for the entire year. And my teacher, I was in the drafting program. I like to draw, and my teacher said, "Hey, you've got good grades. You need to go work for GM." And I said, "What am I going to be doing at GM?" And they said, "You're going to be running blueprints." Well, okay, that's been a million years ago. People don't make blueprints probably anymore, but basically making copies. And I said, "Making copies all day? That's really boring. I don't want to do that." High school student, right? And so I decide, he said, "No, no, you need to go there," because he could see that that had a good growth potential. And yeah, I went there, I made copies until my fingers turned blue. And, and that wasn't the most exciting part of the job. But what was good was I had mentors that were working. I had other engineers who said, "Hey, come with me, I'll show you something." They taught me how to design on a computer system. At the time, that was all new technology. I mean, we didn't have CAD back then. And one thing led to another, and I saw what the people I worked with did, and I said, "Okay, I want to be an engineer. I want to be a mechanical engineer." Because before that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I took that, I became I went to college in mechanical engineering. I was a college co-op. And what was really great was at the end of my college career, I had the most low-key interview because I had worked with all of the people that I interviewed with. And they basically said, "Okay, who do you want to work for?" I mean, it was great. But I mean, all along, the skills I picked up were, working with different people, managing my time, um, seeing the value to something that doesn't seem very interesting at the time, but seeing where it could lead and go to. Um, learning from people, even though you don't really think that there's really much to learn, you can always learn something. If it's how to relate to different people, or a new skill, or even just the values of relationships. So, and now I'm a quality manager, but I've been an engineering manager, I've been a quality champion, I've been a design engineer, and each time I stepped into these different roles, moving into greater and greater responsibility. So hopefully that's not too long.
Samantha, do you want to go
Oh, yeah,
next?
I was gonna say I can go next. I went to Northeastern for my undergraduate degree, and one of the reasons I highlight that is so that's a co-op school. So what it means is you do something similar where you work for 6 months and then you're in school for 6 months. So I had the great opportunity to work with both Raytheon and Johnson & Johnson during those co-ops, and a lot of them actually kept me part-time, which I love because one, it helped me pay for a lot of the college tuition, which was good. And two, it was nice to have an opportunity to kind of take a step back from school every once in a while, work in different jobs, learn different skill sets. So coming out of that, I had a good idea because I didn't like all of the co-ops. And I always tell students I work with, like, it's okay if you don't like one of the things you're doing. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I love this, because coming out of it, I was like this, hate this, like that, this is okay. So I had a good direction of what I was looking for, but I also knew that I still wanted to do a little bit exploring and rotating. So when I was looking at post-graduation roles, I applied to a bunch of leadership development programs along with other jobs, and I got into one of the rotational programs at BAE. And that was good because it kind of forces you to take on 3 different jobs, but it also gives you a mentor at the same time. And why I say that's good is it forced me to have 3 very unique experiences that I don't think I would have chosen for myself or had the opportunity to do if I wasn't in a position that was like, hey, you've been doing this for the amount of time you're supposed to, you have to move, you have to pick a new role. And so I was very fortunate to have both of those. And then coming out of that, I'd actually made a few connections. It was weird. I didn't really do like a formal interview. It was more like I was working in an area. I kind of knew the manager and what they needed. We had a really good conversation. He's like, so I have this position and I know you're graduating from rotating. Like, what are your thoughts? And that's literally how I moved out of it. But it was from those connections that I made along the way. And I stayed and I did more of like a managerial factory supervisor / industrial engineering role. So a lot with like factory moves. And then the one thing I will say that I credit first with is, so I was at a pivotal point like in my career and I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay doing like the engineering work and like the day-to-day supervision, or if I wanted to challenge myself and step into a different role as maybe like a program manager. And I always say to people, like, one of the things that I love about volunteering with Post program is it gives you an opportunity to try out certain skill sets that you might be afraid to try out in the workforce. And I call it like a safer environment to maybe take on managing or a project that you don't want to do at work. And so being part of the planning committee and taking on like the affiliate partner roles and seeing, okay, I'm not failing at this, I could maybe do something similar, gave me, at least in my opinion, the confidence to go and take that step forward, to step into something that was a little bit different. And that's how I ended up in the program manager role that I am now. And one of the things that's cool, at least in my role, is I get to see all the different groups that I worked in, and some of which I didn't work in, and have a really good appreciation for how many people it really takes to run a program, put something together, and how crucial, and this is the last thing I'll highlight, like some of the small roles where like, I'm just filling out paperwork all day long. Like, you don't appreciate how crucial some of those roles are or how much they're like appreciated until you get to see how everything comes together. So that's one of the really good opportunities that I have now and how I kind of got to where I was. So I always credit first for helping me make the jump over.
Yeah, so I started out with
go ahead.
I started out with internships as well. I did 2 internships at Rockwell, and then I ended up doing 2 at GE Healthcare. Came back to Rockwell Automation for full time, and I started out in technical sales, and it's something that I really enjoyed. But I always had this passion for giving back in STEM and for trying to continue to provide that opportunity that I was given to other students to become more aware of the opportunities and what it takes to be successful in engineering. And so I was doing all this speaking and leadership roles within different STEM organizations, and eventually did a TEDx talk on STEM, and one of our vice presidents got a hold of it, and she was like, "You're like our STEM ambassador." And we both look at each other and we're like, well, yeah, that should be an actual thing. And we created the role after about a year. And so I think Samantha was kind of hinting at it. It's just whatever you're looking to do next, start finding other places where you can find some of those leadership opportunities, because everyone's expected to do well in their role, right? Like, everyone's expected to do their job. But where do you get those other skill sets that separate you from the rest, whether that's managing a team or handling bigger budgets? You can look at other nonprofits that you're passionate about to find some of those leadership opportunities to get the skills you want to take your career to the next level. That's what I was able to do with STEM volunteering and make my passion my career. And that's what you guys can do with whatever advancements you want to make in your career.
So our next question is, what is the benefit of working for a company like all of yours that support FIRST? I know this is going to not be a very tough question, because working for a company that supports FIRST is fantastic. Jay, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things, obviously, and you know that the company values a lot of the things that you're valuing. But then also, just if you love FIRST and want to continue being a part of it, it's a great opportunity to walk into a company that understands the value of it. For us, it is always up to manager discretion, but in general, you don't have to take vacation to be able to support FIRST events. We provide we provide grants to teams that are mentored by our employees. So it allows you to give back, not just as a mentor, but also financially to your team. And we provide additional support if your team makes it a championship, etc. So if you love what you're doing and you want to continue mentoring and volunteering, it's one of the easiest ways to continue that path without running into any barriers or having to give up certain things like vacation or other benefits. And if you don't end up going to a company that supports FIRST, still go after it, try to spread the word, try to get them to adopt it too. But I think it does help a lot to start at a company that values what FIRST brings to the table.
I think one of the biggest things for me that I found is it kind of creates, so I always say I have like my FIRST family, like my volunteer group that you see, but you get to see them events and maybe you don't get to see them all the time. So it's like a big reunion. But one of the things that's nice about working for a company that supports it is there's a lot of people that are throughout the company that are like FIRST alumni or have that same connection. So it really helps you, I say, career-wise, and that you might meet somebody volunteering at an event because it's such a big, for example, BAE event that helps you later on in your career, or maybe turns into a mentor for you that helps propel you forward. So it's almost like you have, like, I call it a hidden network within the company that you're able to discover and make connections with the more that you get involved. And then the other thing that's really nice is, so we don't give like vacation days out to volunteer for FIRST, which would be awesome, but it's very, very easy to approach. I found like a manager in most cases and say like, hey, I'm going to go do this, or I want to volunteer or have this time. And since because we're flexible, depending on like the job that you're in, there's a lot of flexibility to begin with some of the roles, but then too, you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to sell your boss on why you have to go and do this. They're normally like, oh yeah, okay, I know, like go over. So both of that really helps when you're working at a company that's already connected and already understands the value and why you're taking time out of your day and your spare time to support something like this.
And for me at BOSCH, the nice thing is that, like the others have mentioned, the company knows what the values are, but that they also understand the development that our people can get in volunteering. So, I mean, as a mentor, it gives you the chance to then maybe strengthen some of your own management skills, if you're in an individual contributor role, but now you can highlight and try out and practice being a manager of a little subgroup of a team of the students that you're working with. So I think it gives you the chance to practice some of those skills even as an adult mentor. But also the company understands the value of that, not only for the development of our people, but also secondly is in talent acquisition. So as the mentors, you can pair up with the students and you can kind of keep your eye on students that that you think are maybe high potential, and then try to encourage them into the schools or into the jobs that could help your company as well. So, and that's where I think that it leverage the companies that are familiar with FIRST and that support it, they can leverage that also for their own growth and filling their own talent pipelines for the future. So shameless plug for mentors.
So we have time for one last question. What importance does inclusion and diversity play in your company's workforce and mission? Does someone in particular want to take that one first, or should I just call on someone?
I can go. As I mentioned earlier, is one of the reasons why I chose Rockwell Automation in the first place. I felt that it was a culture that wanted us to be able to do our best work and not have any of those things be a barrier for anyone to do their best work. And I felt that it was part of that during that process and throughout my career here. It's also a big part of what we do in the community and making sure that everything that we do has an equity lens behind it, and making sure that we're providing opportunities for everyone to succeed. Our mission is huge. Our vision for the world is very challenging to complete. And if we don't have all groups being able to contribute to that, it's not only the right thing to do, it's great for all of our organizations. So I highly recommend that when you're looking at companies, you try to understand what their values are, how they view their communities and their employees, so that you know that where you're going is not only a cool place that does cool things, but that's also going to care about you as a person and your growth and development. And I think that's going to make you a lot happier throughout your career, and you'll be more proud of the work you're doing and the impact that your company is having in the community. So definitely keep an eye out on that.
Yes, I can go next. So diversity and inclusion is a key element to our business philosophy, because we see that it enriches everybody. I mean, the associates that work for us, but also it helps us design, products that apply to, or that would appeal to a wide variety of people. And the decisions that are made are better made when you include people that are different than yourself, because you get different perspectives. And all of this rolls up into our mission statement of an invented for life. So all of the products that BOSCH is building or selling, they all are looking to improve the quality of life for for the people, for the environment. And with that, you can't just keep diversity out of that, because with an invented for life motto, life is different for different people, and so it means different things. So you have to have that broad viewpoint in order to meet the mission. And I also share your comments as well, Jay, that then allows the people to be proud of what you're working on, the cool things that you're doing.
So I would echo both of those. One thing I would point out is it's definitely a priority within our company, especially when we're hiring. But one of the things I always like to say is we solve very, very difficult problems, and we have to do very difficult things. And I don't think that you can be able to do that without being inclusive of everybody and being willing to have all those different perspectives. Like, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish some of the things that our company is able to accomplish if we're not making sure that we're inclusive and taking all opinions, all different cultures. It's that different mindset, or somebody that comes up with that random idea that sometimes is just the thing that makes the hard problem get solved. The other thing we have a lot of is like different ERG groups within the company. So one of the goals in a lot of different areas is they're trying to make sure people are aware of what the groups are, that they have a community or somebody they can talk to about different stuff. And we're also focusing a lot in just education, especially with the climate that's going on, and just really focusing on making sure that it's a comfortable culture, because nobody wants to go into work or an environment where they don't feel comfortable or connected. And that's one thing that, at least for me, I've never really felt, or there's ever been a situation. I've been very proud of how quickly it's been addressed, and how it's just not really tolerated is the best way to describe it.
So before we close out, want to thank our panelists for being here. Thanks Susan from BOSCH, Samantha from BAE Systems, and Jay from Rockwell Automation. We will follow this up with a recording, and we got a whole lot of questions, and unfortunately we were not able to get all of them live, but we will keep them in mind as we work to do more events like these in the future. So thank you again, panelists, for taking time out of your very busy schedules to talk to our students, alumni, and mentors that joined in. We hope to see all the folks that were joining us next time we have a webinar, and thank you all again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.